So we just culled the chicken and it bled out for the last 10 minutes or so. And during that time, what we did was we filled up a big pot full of water, used a thermometer, and made sure that it got to about 155 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the right temperature, because you don't want to boil your bird, you don't want to scald their skin, but you do need it to be warm enough so that when we dunk the bird, the feathers just come out super easy. So it's time for us to get our bird out of the kill collar. All right, so we're gonna start dunking our bird. So one thing I like to do is just kind of swoosh them around, because they have layers of feathers. These aren't factory birds, so they're not missing a ton of feathers. They have layers of feathers. So it's best to just swoosh them around. Now again, the water's not boiling, but it is super hot. So if you're super tender-handed, maybe this might be a good idea to wear dish gloves. They're a little thicker and they can actually stick to the feathers a little easier. Alright, so we're going to start with the butchering process now. I cut off the head, and the next process for me is going to be cutting off the legs. So what I do is I turn the chicken over, and I feel for kind of like a meaty area right here on the back, and I just slice the skin just slightly, and I work my way around the knee of the chicken, and then I break it a little bit. And when I break it, I can expose the tendon that actually holds it into place, because it's not bone holding it together. And once you remove these legs, it's a lot more manageable of a size. Because we have our chickens free ranging all the time, our chickens' feet are a little dirty. They don't have bumblefoot or like any kind of issues, so they are edible and they make a great stock. So I'm just going to throw them in the stock pot that we had the chicken soaking in before we feathered it, so that way I can get them clean and scrubbed so that we can process them later. On to the next one. Alright, so now we've got the chicken that's somewhat similar to what you probably see in the store. Maybe you're not used to seeing it with a neck. We're going to remove the neck and we're going to remove the innards neck. Alright, so we're ready to begin the butchering, and you're going to find a lot of different people who have many different ways that they like to do it. I start with the head and then I move to the butt. So when you first go to remove the neck and start loosening up everything, because everything's really stuck inside the cavity, the first thing you're going to notice is this thing. It's like a rubbery hose. That is their windpipe. And then you'll notice a slimy little hose, and that is actually their food sac that goes down to their craw where they first start digesting. And then this slimy big red thing is their neck bone. So we have to separate all of it, and it's all kind of stuck together by mucous membranes and other stuff, I don't know. And so I just use my fingers and I kind of get in there and I separate it all from the neck. So what I do is I kind of separate the skin from the breast as best as I can, and I work my way down. And you'll notice that a lot of this is just mucous membrane attached to both the food pipe, which I'm holding, and the air pipe. So just work your way down slowly, carefully. With time, you'll get better and quicker at this, and then next thing you know, you'll be able to butcher a chicken in probably 5 minutes or less. Kind of just use your fingers and feel around in there and tear the mucous membrane and separate it. And so you'll see that there's like a little mucous membrane here in between the breasts. You just want to put your finger right through it and kind of wiggle it around on the inside as best you can, separating the breast meat from the insides, so that way you can get in there easier It's easier if you start from the top than it is if you go starting from the bottom. All right, I think I got it pretty loosened up in here. And if you don't do this, if you go through the butt first, you're gonna notice that everything is like super stuck on the inside, and you're gonna be tugging for days to get everything out. So don't drive yourself crazy. Just loosen it up first. It will take so much less time in the end. And just like the legs, if you cut it between the two bones where the ligaments are, which you can kind of feel like little nodules for the bones, it'll come out pretty easily. It's just tough meat. But we'll keep this for stock or gravy later in the year. Alright, so when I go through the butt, no matter how long we've been starving this chicken before we do this, I always use a paper towel to pinch their butthole closed. Part of the reason behind that is because you never know if there's going to be a little poop that's going to slide out, and quite frankly, I don't really want to touch that with my hands. So you have their tail right here, and then you have their butt right here, and there's a tiny little thread area between the butt and the tail. I pinch the butt closed, and I kind of pull it a little bit, and I'll slice in kind of a diagonal motion underneath the tail, just enough to cut the skin, nothing deep. I'm not trying to pierce too much here. Alright, so now that I've got the cavity open, I can see pretty much everything that I would ever want to see on a chicken. And so essentially what you're going to do is you're going to hold on to, sorry, the neighbors are doing some construction. You're going to hold on to that little outlet for the poop, and you're just going to kind of cut around it, so that way you're able to kind of pull that intestine out so nothing bad happens. And so I'm going to cut a little to the right. Careful not to cut yourself, please, peeps. And just like that, you can kind of see her intestine. So I'm going to be careful to keep it covered. We didn't feed her for the past 24 hours, but she has a ton of poop in her intestines. So you can see how dark it is right now. Actually, I got to be really careful because it looks like it's tearing a little bit. Okay. And in case you're wondering, this is kind of what it looks like. And essentially you've got all the guts just kind of waiting to just be pulled out. They're going to be attached to the inside of the body cavity by a mucous membrane. This is kind of just the tedious part. Loosening up all the mucous membranes to be able to pull it out in one swoop. Sorry about all the background noise. I don't have control over construction. And everything is almost out. Again, if you start through the neck, it sure does make it a heck of a lot easier, because then when this is all loosened, you can just kind of pull it straight out, because you'll find that the top of the body cavity is super tight. Everything's so tight. So, wow. There you go. There's all the guts. Head, neck, guts. And we did a great job. There's nothing really left in here. Ta-da! Alright. Got a couple of little kidneys stuck in the back. Alright, I think we're just about done. Yep. All done. Now to just rinse her off and package her up. Alright, so we're going to rinse this bird down. Anything that was left over on the inside of the bird is going to be nice and cleaned out. That bad chicken smell that you may have smelled when you were defeathering it is all gone. Now it just smells like clean, fresh meat. So, and again, don't eat this tonight. Rigor mortis is in. You got to wait till tomorrow to have this beautiful bird for a meal.